Attorney's Office. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication, and it is legally sufficient.
And Jennifer Satan. Would you please give us a bio?
My name is Jennifer Satan. I am an AICP certified land planner. Most of you guys probably know me from Baracco Associates. I was a planner there for 20 years. I've also served on the Land Development Code Advisory Committee for probably about 20 years or so now. So I'm not new to the committees, but there's much less of us on this one and a little bit more controversy. But I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, welcome, Jennifer. You'll be a great addition to us, and your knowledge base will be a nice compliment. The next item of business is election of officers. Don't really know next steps other than nominations.
I'd like to nominate Stan.
As president. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Let it roll. Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We need to elect a vice chair. Is there any nominations from the committee for a vice chair?
John, you're willing to serve again?
Yes.
I nominate you for vice chair then.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is a public forum at this point. Anyone in the audience that is not wishing to speak on an agenda item, but an unagended item, this would be your time. Seeing no one there. Our next matter of business is approval of the minutes from October 23rd. Any comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We move to agenda item number 5, Lee Plan Amendments. 5A CPA 2023-00008 Water Supply Plan Update. Amend the Lee Plan to coordinate with the South Florida Water Management District's 2022 Lower West Coast Water Supply Plan as required by Section 163.3177 of the Florida Statutes. Portions of the Lee Plan to be amended include the future land use element, the community facilities and services element, the capital improvements element, and Table 5, 10-year water supply development projects. According to my information, the applicant is the county. Does the county have a presentation?
Yes.
Very good.
Good morning to the members of the LPA. Good morning. My name is Brian Roberts. I'll be presenting this morning the water supply plan update. This is a text amendment, CPA 2023-8. It is a county-initiated text amendment. The requested amendment incorporates the Lee County Water Supply Facilities Work Plan. We're going to call it the Work Plan because that's a mouthful. And associated amendments into the Lee Plan. The requested amendment will incorporate the Work Plan by reference into the Florida statute as required. Amend the Lee Plan policies to maintain consistency with water use planning and amend the 10-year water supply development projects Table 5. Florida statute requires local governments to provide a work plan covering a 10-year planning period within 18 months after the governing board approves a updated regional water supply plan. The South Florida Water Management District Governing Board approved the Lower West Coast Regional Water Supply Plan update on December 8th, 2022. Direction was issued by the Board of County Commissioners to incorporate their work plan into the Lee Plan, or our work plan into the Lee Plan on August 1st, 2023. Again, that's the Lee County work plan, not the regional work plan. State statute requires the work plan to address existing water supply facilities, level of service standards, development of traditional and alternative water supplies, service delivery, conservation and reuse, and provide a 10-year water supply development project table. The Lee County Work Plan was shared with the South Florida Water Management District on December 4th as a courtesy, and no comments were received back. This process strengthens coordination between regional water supply plans prepared by water management districts and local governments, as well as providing consistency between land use planning and water supply planning. The Lee Plan amendments associated with this amendment include Policy 1.4.5, which will remove language that could be interpreted as a prohibition or limitation of public facilities within the DRGR. Policy 20.3.2 to remove potential inconsistencies with state or federal regulations. Policy 25.9.3 to support the expansion of water and sewer facilities throughout Lee County, or Lehigh Acres, excuse me. Policy 51.2 to address declining water levels and saline intrusion. Policy 55.1.3 to update the reference to the work plan. This will incorporate the Lee County Work Plan by reference into the Lee Comprehensive Plan. Policy 95.1.1, again, to remove potential inconsistencies with state or federal regulations. And the 10-year water supply development projects, Table 5. The following policies are proposed policies. These are new policies to be included in the Lee Plan. Policy 54.1.13 to encourage the use of grant funding for water projects. Policy 54.1.14 to reduce the reliance on the aquifer and intermediate aquifer systems. And Policy 54.1.15 to consider the use of desalinated seawater. In conclusion, the Florida statutes require Lee County to revise the Lee Plan to ensure consistency with the South Florida Water Management District's Lower West Coast Water Supply Plan. This includes the adoption of a work plan for a minimum of a 10-year planning period, and the amendments proposed ensure consistency with the regional water supply plan and water use planning. Staff recommends transmittal of the proposed amendments as provided in Attachment 1. Staff stands by for questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions from the LPA? Ray.
Well, in policy 20.3.2, within the context of the paragraph, it states that the county may also extend central water through the Buckingham Community Plan area if necessary. In connection to this expanded water service network will be on a voluntary basis. Is that typical? Is there an agreement in existence that stated that it would always be voluntary and not required once the service is there?
The voluntary basis is existing language that's in the Lee Plan currently. The additional language that was added is the underlined language. We did not change the language that included will be on a voluntary basis.
Because it was a prior agreement.
Yeah, yes, it's in the Buckingham planning community.
Okay.
In your consideration of the use of desalinated water, is this something that's already being done in nearby counties or something that has been successfully done?
This was encouraged in the regional supply plan. It's in the actual language change that was supported. It's encouraged through the regional water supply plan. I'm not aware of anything in other counties. Lee County Utilities might be able to speak to some some other areas that it is done. I'm not aware of it, but it's being encouraged through the regional plan to explore those options currently.
I believe Cape Coral has an RO plant.
Okay.
Do you have any, or is a member of your team able to opine on the progress or advancements in desalination? Is it a cost-effective mechanism?
Lee County Utilities.
Hi, Nathan Beals with Lee County Utilities. We have multiple RO treatment facilities that use deeper aquifer sources, not necessarily the Gulf of Mexico as a source, but we will look at that as an alternative option in the future. But currently we have 5 water treatment plants, and 2 use fresh water, the other 3 use RO treatment. So we are already using RO, reverse osmosis treatment, for our water sources.
What's generally the parts per billion in the water we treat now as compared to parts per billion of the Gulf of Mexico? Is it excessively more in the Gulf or moderately?
I can't speak to that specifically. I don't know those numbers. We don't know those numbers off the top of our head, but it's more of an access. Our facilities are more inland typically, so accessing the Gulf of Mexico readily for water is a little bit more difficult at our existing facilities.
Okay. Other questions, Ray?
Just a question on your charts. If you look at table 3-4 on page 9, Daniels Parkway South is called off as being included because of the comprehensive plan amendment that has been approved. But when you go to figure 3-2 on page 7, Daniels Parkway South isn't shown on the map.
What attachment were we on? I'm sorry.
Page 9, table 3-4.
We're in the Lee County Facilities Work Plan.
Yes, so in the plan, the reason that I don't think that the map amendment has been updated to show it on the future service area boundaries. That's why it's not shown on the map.
Okay.
Anyone else? Talk to me about the abundance of language used to locate public facilities in these particular areas.
It was in the DRGR. There's been significant development, and the language that was struck was to not have a conflict because it specifically spoke to minimal public facilities. The Lower West Coast update specifically talks about water resources and expanding the use of alternative water resources in accordance with the plan to improve water quality, use, and efficiency. We don't want to have that language in the Lee plan to be used to prohibit those facilities and allow the expansion and development of individual wells in aquifer systems when we can provide the water and sewer and reduce the use and reliance on septic systems.
And a public facility, please help me understand, because in my mind that could be a library to a sewer plant.
Keep in mind that any development in the DRGR still has to meet the policies in the Lee plan with the impact on natural resources and the groundwater resources. That doesn't relieve that at all. So they still have to demonstrate that during the time of development. This only removes that possible interpretation that they're completely not allowed in the DRGR. It doesn't relieve them from any of the other development regulations. Those are still in place and still restrict the development in the DRGR.
So in the vernacular of this language, public facilities largely means water or sewer related.
That's the intent. And the reliance, there may be reliance on this that says only minimal, an argument that that's not necessary because it says only minimal, and that's not the case. We don't want that to be the interpretation of that particular language in the Lee plan, based on the language that's coming from the regional water supply plan.
Okay. Anybody else from the LPA? All right, this is a public hearing. I have a card of someone wishing to give public comment, and just as is the case, we appreciate you being here.
Appreciate those words of encouragement. That means a lot to me.
There is a 3-minute limit, so we ask that you use it wisely.
My name is Marcia Ellis, for the record, and I have previously called Natural Resources requesting that there be a workshop so that the public can be aware of the lower West Coast water supply being incorporated and that they be included in this process. I myself am very familiar with this document. I've utilized it multiple times in zoning actions and giving comments at the board. First of all, let me speak to policy 1.4.5 about the minimal public facilities are programmed in the DRGR. And I will point out that recently legislation has given us some guidance about the kinds of incompatibility that can exist with even private septic facilities. And so I ask that, consideration of natural features, stormwater, proximity, et cetera, be considered in siting of any facilities going forward. The alternative water sources are definitely needed in that area of Lehigh, East Lehigh, directly north of State Road 82 due to water levels in the sandstone dipping below acceptable levels. Those people are facing immediate threat to the continuation of their water supply. And this is especially a problem given the use of stormwater lakes that has been proposed and is in existence in multiple developments in the DRGR just south that are depleting the sandstone aquifer by filling up those lakes for aesthetic and irrigation purposes. That's for landscape recreation use. Landscape recreation use should be with reclaimed water as the alternative water source. It is irresponsible to take away people's water that they use for drinking for landscape purposes. Let me also speak to the issue with the Buckingham Community Plan. The language is misleading. It says voluntary for existing users. So in effect, people would be forced, according to follow those federal and state regulations. So it's disingenuous. I ask for there to be a revision to that language. Also want to point out desalination, we're way too premature. It is insanely expensive compared to the use of the superficial and intermediate aquifer that is the superior source of high quality water for domestic supply services and for public supply. It is, we should protect those resources and continue use of the superficial and intermediate aquifer that require wise stewardship. Most of Florida doesn't have the option of using the superficial and intermediate aquifer. We will take away their security in the future if we shift our focus to the use of the Floridan, which is much more energy consuming, much more expensive, and irresponsible. I want to speak for just a moment about the eliminating the Floridan wells at the Green Meadow, which is a good idea because we have the Floridan at that location pushing up from the south and the water quality would decline. We must make science-informed decisions, not developer-driven decisions in our managing our water resources. And please, I ask that we get participation in rulemaking regarding incinerators and air quality because we're having deposition and pollution affect our water supply that creates an existential threat for our community, particularly the people in Buckingham, East Lehigh, that are sharing a disproportionate burden. Those are the people that need to be protected the most with these amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Marcia had also provided to all of us
Please include this on the record. Thank you.
at 7 o'clock last night an email that was extensive. And in that email, she also, I believe staff got a copy of that. And I know that it's a 14-hour window, but I would like staff to come to the podium and redress some of the remarks that Marcia has made. I mean, she limited to 3 minutes, but she's got some comment or some remarks here. Who from staff would like to redress them?
We have staff here from DCD, zone utilities, and natural resources. It may be easier if you ask the questions and then we can answer those as appropriate. I'm not sure, based on the question, who would be the most appropriate person to send to the podium at this time.
Well, given the short window that we've had to review this, I don't personally have a specific question. but I do think there are some points here that Marcia has put time and effort into composing. Has anyone else had the ability to peruse this document?
I mean, the only thing that really pops up, and I did read through this last night, but as far as Buckingham is considered, okay, so there's existing language that states that existing residents aren't required to tap into the potable water supply if it's available. But I thought, Marcia, in your letter, what happens with new owners, new residents that come in, would they be under that same ability not to tie in, or are they required by state law to tie in?
The intent of that is not to necessarily to change anything for new residents that are coming in, unless those requirements are put in place or are enforced, unless we're basically compelled to by state or federal requirements.
So I'll just add to that, for the land development code requirements, if a new project comes in and water is available for residential, commercial, and they meet the thresholds within the land development code, they would have to connect wherever they are in the county. So if there's infrastructure there, but if they're existing, we do not have a requirement for existing residents to connect to water. The land development code does not require that.
Is a new project a single-family home, or is it a Pulte-Lennar type situation?
I believe it depends on the number of units per acre.
Just to add to what Nathan said, any new project, a single-family home would also have to comply with those requirements of the land development code. However, just based on the density that is permitted within Buckingham Rural Community Preserve at 1 unit an acre, they would not meet that threshold of having to connect. The threshold to connect to water is 2.5 units an acre, and I believe it's the same for utilities. Yes, also 2.5, or for sewer service.
That density requirement would, okay, that makes sense.
And that density calculation is done how we typically would with the plan development, including all the preserves and clustering.
That is correct.
Are there discussions ongoing or not regarding bringing potable water into Lehigh Acres?
Well, Lehigh Acres is within the Florida Governmental Utility Authority's control, and we are partnering with them to evaluate what requirements and what options they have. They have their own capital improvement plan where they're proposing different projects, looping that improves their water quality as well as availability for connections.
Anybody else? Dawn?
Was Lehigh having the same problems that it's having now, or has it significantly gotten worse in the past 10 years, the drawdown of the wells in Lehigh?
It's been steadily declining. Most aquifers are. The biggest use out there is the connection of the single-family homes for that. The developments within DRG are downstream of where that aquifer recharges. But yeah, there's been a steady decline. That's where...
Appreciate it. I don't know all this stuff, so thank you.
I mean, isn't it a fact that one of the issues with Lehigh Acres is they're on individual wells per house, and the houses, as they're close to each other, that the cone of influence is all the houses all directly around it.
That is correct.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else? Okay. That closes the public comment. I'll bring it back to the board, the issue at hand. Do we have anyone here that would care to make a motion or have further discussion before doing that?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation to the board for CPA 2023-00008 water supply plant update.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Ray. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. According to the agenda, is there any other business that the LPA would like to proffer at this time? Seeing none, I ask for a motion for adjournment. Hank, thank you for the adjournment. We are adjourned.